So apparently Anheuser-Busch cut ties with Carson King, who was the guy who held up the sign that said, we'll get to it. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Drama, drama, drama. Okay, so a friend of mine ended up asking me to cover this, and I wasn't going to talk about it even though I'd heard it, because to me it's so lame. There was a guy named Carson King, and this guy was going to like Ohio State or something like that, or Iowa State, yeah, because I don't know. All I know is that this guy held up a sign that said Busch Light needs replenished, or Busch Light supply needs replenished, and then he put his Venmo at the bottom and then of this sign that and was on TV during some sportscast. I'm the worst reporter ever. The point of the story is this guy Carson King ended up raising a bunch of money, and because people were just sending money to his Venmo. So when it got over like $400, he was like, well, maybe I should turn this into me donating this to somebody. And then he was like, I'm gonna donate this money to the Children's Hospital. Then Anheuser-Busch stepped in and said they would match his money, and then somebody else stepped in and said they would match that money as well. And so it turned into being this guy donating over $1 million, or just over $1 million, to a children's hospital. Now, you would think that's a good thing, and it's just like, leave it at that, let it be a feel-good story. Nope. Some reporter at the Des Moines Register decided that it was time to dig up Mr. Carson King's tweets, because how could anybody be such a good person? I mean, of course, we should have to go through his tweets. It couldn't be about who he is today and who he is now, and that he's the guy that just donated $1 million, that he could have kept, like, let's say it was like a third of that, like 250 grand is what people had sent in. Because with the match and then the match, it would seem that it would have to be somewhere around there. He collected a lot of money is what I'm getting at. And instead of keeping that money for himself, which he could have done, because he didn't have anybody under false pretenses, for all anybody knows, he could use all of this money to get more Busch Light. But rather than doing that, he goes ahead and donates it. And of course, no good deed should go unpunished, because this reporter had to find this regular guy's tweets from 8 years ago. 8 years ago was when he tweeted. He was 16 years old, and there was a racist tweet that he says was in reference to an episode of Tosh.0. Yeah, that's what it's called, Tosh.0. And who knows and who cares? I mean, like, a person can't change in 8 years. We're gonna hold people to what they said. When it was even Kevin Hart, I wasn't a fan of that. Like, all of this trying to dig up tweets and stuff like that. I'll tell you, I personally have said so many things on social media that I don't care about any of this, just because what I think today could be different from what I thought 6 days ago. So when we're talking 8 years, sometimes from one day to the next, I'll get new information and I'll completely change my thinking on a subject. So for me, I'm not worried about what anybody did 8 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, last week. I don't care. And I'm tired of people bringing it up like it's a thing. He said this at this point. Well, you probably said a lot of things too. You just didn't say it publicly, or you didn't put it on Twitter, or maybe you did. Because what ended up happening with this reporter from the Iowa Register, or the Des Moines Register, I think it's a Des Moines Register. I'll put a link down below so you guys can get all the details to the story. Because to me, the story is more important than the story. You know? Because what ended up happening was they decided to dig through this reporter's tweets. Calvin Avery was his name, from the Des Moines Register. And when they dug through his tweets, they ended up finding out that he had some racist tweets too. Now, I didn't bother looking into his racist tweets, just like I didn't look specifically into Carson King's racist tweets, because I do not care. I don't believe in a world where people don't make mistakes. The world I live in, mistakes is how we learn. And we've all done things that we're less than proud of. And I know, me especially, I've done a lot of stuff where I'm like, yeah, I'm not that person today. And you know, would I say I'm the best person in the world? Most definitely not. Would I say I'm the worst person in the world? No, for sure not. I know a lot of people that are terrible people, or were terrible people. And it's like, the way this whole canceling situation worked out, what a lot of these people don't realize, and I don't mean to single this group out, but in a lot of cases, it is young white liberals that want to really do this. And it's like, you don't really get that if we had held people to this standard years ago, your parents wouldn't have had money to raise you. Your grandparents wouldn't have had money to raise your parents. And they wouldn't be able to get jobs now, even the way that it works, where it's like there's no forgiving, there's no allowing for a person to have grown or changed. It's just, that's it, and now that's what that person is. And I'm not holding anybody to that standard, and I'm not holding myself to that standard. I see so many people, because I meet a lot of people in a day, a week, a month. I meet so many people. And so many people talk to me about online, because I talk about that in my act a bit, you know, just the way people act online and Facebook, and people trying to cancel. You know, I've had people try to cancel me, which is something I've been very open about. And it's just like, just get lives. Do other things with your time. Like, who hired you to crack all these mysteries about things that most general public does not care about? Most people don't care about what somebody said in the past. It really is about who you are now. I mean, like, you shit on yourself when you're a baby. Should you be arrested now for public defecation? Or, you know, then who are these perfect people? No, there's not perfect people. That's why Calvin Avery ended up getting busted after he blew the whistle, went full Tekashi 6ix9ine, and just decided to start snitching on Carson King for his old tweets. So busy snitching that he didn't even have time to scroll and troll his own tweets and see, oh, maybe at one point, which tells me that he probably used racist language a lot. If he couldn't remember it, if it didn't stick out in his mind, even when he was calling out this other person, then maybe he just has a history of saying and doing racist things. Maybe people need to look closer into Calvin Avery, or maybe everybody just needs to worry about their own lives and their own personal growth. Like, I say this even about mistakes that I've made where I know for a fact they were mistakes that I made, like, because, you know, if you ever have been a part of self-sabotaging behavior, there's times where I have indulged, I guess you would say, in self-sabotaging behavior. And when I was doing that, like, I can look back on it and be like, yeah, I really fucked myself over in that situation. Well, what am I supposed to do? Cancel myself because I put myself in stupid situations at different point in my life? No, I gotta keep on going with my life. I gotta keep becoming a better person. I've gotta keep working towards my goals. I mean, like, I can't let the fact that I didn't have the best judgment when I was 16 years old or 20 years old or 21 or now at 25. Whatever. Yeah, I can't let that be the decider of where my future ends up lying. And I'm not going to leave that in other people's hands where it's like, you know, am I okay for you? No, I'm okay for me. And what I was going to say about meeting so many people is I meet so many people, and so many of them like talk about how they're afraid of social media now, or that people are obsessed with it, and just how ugly people get on social media. And it really has gotten to a bad point, you know, and that's part of why I don't care about Greta Thunberg's speech, because this planet could go off in a ball of flames for all I care with the way people act with each other now. I don't know when people became such saints. All of them just were surrounded by saints constantly. Anyway, this has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.